Hello, everybody, and welcome to Old Scribes, the podcast for the mature sports fan. We want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day, whether it's morning, lunch, or afternoon, or evening, whatever time you might be viewing this. We appreciate you stopping by. And today we have a very special guest with us, a personal friend of mine who I've watched grow up as an amateur all the way to the professional ranks and eventually become champion. People like us from the borderland, Las Cruces, New Mexico, El Paso, Texas area are especially proud of this young man for what he's accomplished in his boxing career. It really needs no introduction. Austin, no doubt, Trout. Thanks for being with us today.
Hey, thank you, George. I appreciate that, man. Thank you, Matt. Thanks for having me on, y'all.
Absolutely. Thanks. I was looking for my Austin No Doubt Trout t-shirt. I had one and I couldn't find it, but know that I had one at one point.
Another one and a new one.
That's right. I need a new one. Exactly.
At one point I had about 15 of them. Tell you the truth.
Yeah. I got 15 more to say.
I had a whole supply, a little history. Austin's original trainer, Louis Burke, he and I grew up together. We went to school together. At grade school, we played pee-wee football together. We went to high school together. So it was actually Louis who got me into writing about boxing and being a boxing writer, because I had to cover first Rocky's career when he returned pro way back in the day. And then when Louis turned pro and he was banging up with Freddie Roach and everybody and winning ESPN titles, that's when I was covering boxing then. So people ask me how long you've been covering boxing. It's been a long time.
Long time. Yeah.
And Louis at one point came to me and says, "Yeah, I got this fighter. I think he's going to be pretty good. He's got some talent. He's got some heart. He's got some skill." And I said, "Oh, okay, all right." So kept an eye on Austin all the way until he turned pro, and then we kind of shared that magical night at Madison Square Garden when Las Cruces was in the house when he fought Miguel Cotto. What was that? December 1st, 2012, right?
2012. You lived in New York at the time, right?
Yeah, I was working for the New York Post at the time, and so was covering the fight. And one of the few times I had a very vested rooting interest in the outcome. And
when they announced you as the winner, I mean, we're not supposed to say this or do this as like sports writers, but being a New Mexico native, my wife is from Las Cruces. I shed a tear when they announced you as the winner. Yeah, that was a special night.
Yeah, talk about that night. How much do you reflect on that night, and what did that do for your career?
Well, that was really the launching pad. That fight. For me to be able to get, a lot of good fights later on. Just everything, even just getting that fight, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. To fight against Miguel Cotto was major, because, as you know, not too many fighters from Las Cruces get even opportunities like that. I think the last time any fighter from the borderland had a major fight was when Louis fought Hector Macho Camacho. Mm-hmm. And so to get a major name, that was just alone big. And then I knew when I got the call, I was like, "Oh, I'm beating Cotto. This is the perfect legend to take out on my way." Mm-hmm. And nobody believed me. It's funny. Nobody believed me. Everybody, wrote me off as like, "Whatever, just get your paycheck, kid. Come get your paycheck and go on." I'm like, "No, I'm not. They're not even paying me what they should be paying me. This is because I'm gonna win, Mm-hmm. And to go over there and to do what I did, it was just confirmation of what I knew the whole time, that I was destined to be on that big stage and to be victorious on that big stage.
Right, because
I remember there was a 24/7 HBO 24/7 before that, and I think you were driving along, like Times Square or something, and your mom said, "Look, there's Austin's picture in Times Square or somewhere in New York," and it was just like, wow, kid from Las Cruces and got his name in the big lights. Well, how did that feel for you?
It was unreal because not only was my face, 6, 7 stories high and just as big, in the middle of Times Square for everybody to see. Nobody knew or cared, but they just saw me and Kobe faced up. And then the even doper part is on. I don't know the buildings what they're called, but right here is my big pretty face, right? And you look over here and you have Joseph Benavidez and his big old pretty face, who's a fellow Las Cruces New Mexican. But he was getting ready for a huge fight in the UFC, and they were advertising in New York at the same time that they were advertising my fight. So to see two local New Mexicans, and we went to high school together, like we really kicked it. That was one. It was confirmation that I'm where I need to be because I don't believe in coincidences. So this is where we belong.
Yeah, I remember when you were coming up and really trying to get with a good promotional company at the time. And I know I was talking to some people about Top Rank, and they were saying, well, I don't know how exciting he is. I think they were scared just because you were a southpaw mainly. Yeah. And, I don't know how exciting he's going to be and this, that, and the other. And then after you went to the Garden, I think you packed out the Alamo fighting Canelo against with about almost 40,000 people in attendance, right?
Yeah, and it was a good fight. One of the Fight of the Year candidates for that year.
Right. And you faced a lot of good fighters, the Charlo brothers and Canelo and Cotto. So you got in there with the monsters a little bit.
I did, and no one ever dominated me. I was in dog fights with every one of these top killers, you know what I'm saying? So, I always fought to try to get my due respect. And it was hard coming from Las Cruces, New Mexico, because one, nobody even knows it's part of America. And two, being an African-American in a predominantly Hispanic crowd, it's hard to get a following. Don't get me wrong, New Mexico puts on for Trout. And they show a lot of love for Trout. And as Bob Foster can tell you, it doesn't matter where you're from, it just matters where you're going. Right. So, I never took anything the easy way. I didn't have a machine behind me. I did it really the rugged Marvin Hagler style, and even he had a little bit of a machine behind him. I feel like I was really homegrown roots.
One thing I do remember about the Cotto fight in particular is, you went out there and you took it. I think a lot of people were surprised. And at one point, it was like 7th round. I don't remember, but I think you hit him with a body shot. And he actually turned his back, right? He actually turned around.
Yeah.
And that was the moment where I think everybody realized, wow, Austin Trout's for real. And he's about to win this fight, And at the time, Cotto, he was a mammoth name. He was just a big name. So, that's when I think about that fight on December 1st, 2012, I think about that moment where you hit him with that body shot and he turned his back, and I seem to remember that the referee saved him a little bit, but I don't remember. But
I want to talk about that because when I hit him with the body shot and he turned around, I went to catch him around. So, I went to hook him around. The ref stopped me. And he tried to say like it was a low blow. And I said, that was clean. I'm arguing with the ref. That was clean. And then when the ref says fight, I went right back to the body and hit him again. Now, after the fight, this is, probably a couple months after the fight, maybe, I run into that ref again at another fight. I can't remember who was fighting. And he goes, hey, man, I have to apologize, man, because it wasn't a low blow. That wasn't a low blow. And I said, like, what you talking? Oh, you mean when I hit him with the body and went to go stop him and you stopped me from stopping him, but you called it? Oh, okay. Yeah. Thanks, I guess. He recognized it was too late. It could have got me a stoppage.
Yeah, well, Cotto was, what was he, unbeaten in New York? Cotto was unbeaten in New York.
Also,
so he was 7-0 at the Garden, yeah.
His previous fight, the fight right before when he fought me, he gave Mayweather one of the best fights we've seen Mayweather in. And when we were trying to build up the fight, everyone saw what Cotto did with Floyd, and they just thought for sure he was going to dispatch me. And I was on Showtime. I was commentating. It was my first time commentating. It was the Danny Garcia, Eric Morales rematch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I went and did a little interview, to promote my fight. And they're like, so, Miguel Cotto's been in with the greats. How do you feel like you stack up there? And I said, watch. I'm going to beat Cotto worse than Mayweather did. Now, this joker laughed at me. Yeah, he did, but it's okay. But he said, oh, wow. Well, we'll have to see about that. They saw about it. Because I beat him worse than Floyd did. I beat Cotto worse than Canelo did. Let's just keep it a buck.
Well, you were going to have to get the decision in New York. It had to be
True.
what's called no doubt. Yeah, for you
No
to
doubt,
get
yeah.
for you to get that decision there, because they wanted to give it to Cotto any way possible if it was going to be close, but it wasn't. It wasn't even close at all, really.
No, it wasn't, and
Yeah.
it is surprising that. I mean, frankly, that you won. The scores, as I remember, were fair. They were exactly pretty much the fight that I watched, which was really kind of surprising, considering what the referee had done, and I think it was like the 7th round or so.
The scores were 117, 111 twice, and 119, 109. That's
I mean, that's even wider than I remember.
That's a pretty much ass whipping.
That was the
right
last
there.
time I got an accurate scorecard, which is crazy.
Yeah. In New York to get that against Cotto, that was quite a feat. Yes. And this is, and then a few months later, it was the huge Canelo fight in San Antonio at the Alamo Dome. And going in, you kind of knew that, at least, I don't remember the details, but I do remember that for Canelo, there was the Mayweather fight riding in the balance, right? So you kind of had this feeling that if Canelo won it, he was going to get the Mayweather fight that September, because I believe this was in April of 2013. So what was your feeling? What was your thinking kind of going into that fight in terms of how it was being set up?
Well, again, I just got done dealing with how they dealt with me in the Cotto fight. And I was the champion, but yet they had me walk out first and be announced first. So going into the Canelo fight and him being champion, me being champion, they let me walk out. I think they had me walk out first, but I was announced second, or vice versa.
Okay.
They played a little bit. But I was just dealing with how they treated me with Cotto, and they treated me like I was not supposed to be there. So getting a little bit of again, it wasn't completely fair or great treat. They didn't treat me like the champion I was, but they treated me like I was supposed to be there at least. So I was just being, because mind you, my whole career I've been kind of the opponent or the guy that's just gonna stay busy. It was never a matter of building for me. It was always about building for somebody else. And so again, with the Canelo fight, it was just you knew who they were building it up for. He had the star power. He had the whole country behind him. I was struggling trying to get my state behind me. You wouldn't believe how many people were cheering for Canelo during that fight in Las Cruces. There was a lot of them, for real.
Yep.
So I get it, I understand, but at the same time, I don't care about none of that. I'm here to ruin everybody's plans. You know what I'm saying? And I did my damnedest, but they had some safeguards that I couldn't bypass.
No, I remember they had the open scoring, right?
Yeah, open scoring was terrible, and the one-sided rematch clause terrible. The judging, they had 3 judges for the WBC, and then they gave me. No, I'm sorry. 2 of the judges were WBC. 1 judge was for the BA. They gave me 1 judge and the ref, Lawrence Cole, who also was a BC official. So it was really 3 judges to 1 for me. And then that one from the BA, he gave me the worst card from him, that Christian Dopulis. I'll never forget his name. He scored the worst card of all of them, so I really had no judges on my side. I didn't have anybody on my side. The only guy I had on my side was Bob Spagnola, my manager, and I didn't listen to him because I was so encaptured with the opportunity, and just Al Heyman's telling me it's gonna be good, and my manager looking at it is like, this is not gonna be good. They're gonna take this from you, champ. Unless you're knocking him out, there's no chance. And I'm like, I'm knocking him out, fucking man. You know what I mean? I should just listen to my manager and made them make it right, and they would have, because there was too much riding on it.
Yeah, I remember like going back to the Garden fight during the weigh-in. They didn't let your people even into the weigh-in.
They didn't want anybody cheering for me,
right?
And not even they. And it's crazy. They didn't let none of them in, and I'm sitting there looking around waiting because I saw my mom when I walked in the hallway. You know what I'm saying? I saw my people, so I'm saying, like, where are they? And that was just adding more fuel to the fire. I always had a chip on my shoulder, and I still do, because looking back, I still don't feel like I got the respect that I deserve.
Because I mean, that was a unification fight, right? I mean, both of you guys were undefeated.
Yep.
And so, yeah, when I did notice about, and correct me if I'm wrong, but because of the open scoring, and it's one of the reasons I can't stand open scoring, is that once they announce the scoring of the fight in the seventh round, right before the seventh round or something?
The fourth round and then the seventh.
Well, at that point, and I think Canelo was ahead, he knew that he didn't have to press anymore because he had the advantage. And I do distinctly remember that the fight seemed to change tempo at that point because you couldn't really fight your fight anymore. He was kind of boxing more because he was ahead. Am I right about that?
Absolutely right. I say if there was one thing I could change about that whole fight, it would have been the open scoring. That was alone, I feel, was the one thing. Because if you remember the first 4 rounds, I was coming on, I was getting in rhythm. He was reaching, he couldn't catch me. I was starting to catch him on some reaching. And I even come back to the corner, I was like, he's reaching now. And my coach looked at the score and was like, you got to go get him. They don't respect the boxing.
Yeah.
I said, what they say, how many rounds we lose? He said, all of them. I said, oh, how many judges? All of them. I was like, get the I thought I was 3-1. You know what I mean? Wow. At the worst, 2-2, but the last 2 was I was coming on. So had I just kept the momentum, and he wouldn't have been able to change nothing. He just would have kept pressing, and I would have kept boxing. It would have just been, I think it would have been a better fight, even though it was still a good fight. But I didn't practice for Canelo to get on his horse or to move his head. And as much as it did shock me, because he did have very good head movement and good footwork, a lot better than I gave him credit for before, but I didn't think there was any reason why he would have to use that, especially with the way I was building my points in the first 4 rounds. And then I lost all those points in the next 4 rounds trying to chase him. I got dropped in that 8th round, but still fought him all 12 rounds. Like, I walked that man down, which, as you can see now, not a lot of people can do.
Yeah,
right.
Not even Triple G was able to walk him down successfully.
That's right. Did you have a choice in that open scoring, or how did that come about?
I had no choice in it. They said, this is what we're doing. And I was like, when y'all start doing that? They're like, today. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when you're going to do it again? When we feel like keeping the control in our hands, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I always kind of felt like that was kind of ensuring that the Floyd fight happened that September.
Well, look, I already messed up the Canelo Cotto fight for that time. I don't think they were about to let me mess up Floyd Canelo because, again, business-wise, which I don't care nothing about the business. I'm just here to compete and try to be the best at what I do. But business-wise, I couldn't get New Mexico behind me.
That's a shame.
One thing they kept telling me when I was ready to turn pro back in 2005, and I did turn pro, but I didn't get signed by any promoters. And the reason why Golden Boy passed me up, Top Rank passed me up, Main Event passed me up. If you remember them, Gary Shaw passed me up. And they kept saying, black people don't support. And you're not from anywhere that black people are. So who do you think is going to support you? I was like, damn.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
Yeah.
Terrible. Well, I'm still gonna keep winning, and before long, Democrat or not, you can't deny me, and they couldn't deny me after 10 years.
And once you got the belt, when you went to Mexico, when you had to go to Mexico to go get the belt.
I had to go to Mexico to get the belt, and went back to Mexico to defend the belt.
Yeah.
Against Canelo's brother, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was crazy. So when you look back at that, I know you might still box again. I know you were doing the bare knuckles thing we'll talk about in just a second. But when you look back on your little the boxing era of your time then, what kind of thoughts do you have? Is it bittersweet a little bit?
Time for boxing. In fact, I think right now we're on a decline, but at that period, from 2000 really 8 to 2018, 19, boxing was on a huge incline. We had some really good fights, between Morales and we had Marquez Pacquiao 3 was around that time. Danny Garcia Morales first fight was a great fight. Danny Garcia, Lucas Matisse, there was a lot of really good fights that were going on, and that was all, in my opinion, credit to Al Heyman. When he was before he launched PBC, he was running Golden Boy, and Golden Boy was putting on the best fights at the time, and boxing was very exciting. There was still a lot of very good boxing parties to attend, let alone fights to watch. So I'm very proud to not only be a part of that era, but I had for quite a few years some Fight of the Year candidates, during that era. So not only was I there, but I feel like I was maybe not a major, but I was definitely a contributing factor in that incline of boxing.